So second year BA Computer Applications, third semester, fourth semester. Second year BA Computer Applications, fourth semester, Computer Networks, second unit. Only two essay types ఉంటాయి. First essay type is OSA reference model and TCP by IP reference model, and second one is transmission media. Transmission media means what are the different media or medium used in networks, and what are their characteristics, functionalities, features, applications, disadvantages, limitations, and all these things we may discuss here. So there are different two types of media or transmission media is available: guided media and unguided media. Guided media means wire, by using some wires or cables. Unguided means wireless, like satellites, like that. Characteristics and quality determined by the medium and signal. For guided means that is wired or cabled wired media, the medium is more important. For unguided means wireless, the bandwidth produced by the antenna is more important. Key concern are data rate and distance. So what are the transmission media means? Transmission media are two types: guided and unguided. Guided means wired by using cables. Unguided means wireless by using some satellites. Generally, these the characteristics of the transmission media and quality of the transmission is found by find by medium used and signal available. So for guided media, that is wires and cables, medium is more important. For unguided means wireless, it is generally represented with bandwidth. It is a key term used, bandwidth. What is a bandwidth? Means the speed of the transmission. Bandwidth means generally the speed of the transmission is used by the antenna is important. So here we use two terms. First one is data rate and distance. Data rate means how fast the data is transmitted, and distance used means what is the distance between sending and receiving stations. So design factors means bandwidth. What is a bandwidth? The speed of a transmission or a network is generally measured with bandwidth. Higher bandwidth gives higher data rate, means cost is also higher when bandwidth is higher. And transmission impairments means attenuation and interface between the medium, or interface between the medium, or interface between between the medium. Number of receivers also. Number of receivers means generally how many number of receiving stations are used in guided media. In guided media means guided medium is various, and more receivers at a multi-point introduce more antenna. So here there are different types of mediums are used. There are very different types of mediums are used. So frequency, generally, what is the frequency? Frequency means the speed of the bandwidth is generally measured in frequencies. There are different types of mediums like twisted pair, coaxial cables, radios, TVs, and satellite transmission, and microwave, infrared transmission, optical fibers. So these are the wavelengths, and here we use frequencies and wavelengths. So all these methods or types we may discuss here. So guided transmission media is of two types, three types. First one is twisted pair, coaxial cables, and optical cables. So guided media means by using some wires or cables. So these are guided transmission media are three types: twisted pair, coaxial cable, and optical fiber. So what is transmission characteristics of guided media? So what are the different characteristics and properties of guided media? First one is twisted pair. So here we use different characteristics and properties like frequency, range, typical attenuation, typical delay, repeater spacing. So first we start with the twisted pair, and twisted pair with multi-pair cables, coaxial cable, and optical cables. So from twisted pair to optical pair fibers, the frequency range is gradually increased. Means from 0 to 370 terahertz. So typical attenuation is means what is the speed of the transmission, typical delay, and repeater spacing. So frequency is generally in twisted pairs 0 to 3.5 kHz, whereas in optical fibers it is 150, 186 to 370 terahertz. So twisted pair. So first type of so in guided transmission media, guided means wires or cables. The first one is twisted pairs. So what is a twisted pair? Generally, twisted pairs are used in twisted pair. We are using some insulation material to separate the cables, and these cables are twisted together, often called as bundled into cables, usually installed in buildings during construction. So this is the structure of the twisted pair. So that is called as the twist or length. So these are the cables which are insulated with insulated material, and these two cables are twisted together to transmit data or information. That bundle of twisted pair is called as cables, ordinary cables. So twisted pair applications. So where the twisted cables pairs are used, what are their applications? It is the most common and cheapest medium used. It means ordinary cables or twisted cables like network cables or like internet cable or cable TV cables are all these are twisted cables pairs. What are most common medium? It is the most common and cheapest media used in general, like a telephone network between house and local exchange. Within buildings, they are generally installed within buildings to provide branch exchange for local area networks in twisted pairs. Generally, LANs means local area networks. So, what is the speed of a LAN? LAN speed is generally 10 Mbps to 100 Mbps. So, twisted pairs are generally used in LANs. So, twisted pairs pros and cons. So, what are the pros and cons of a twisted pair? First one is they are cheap. Cheap means less cost, easy to work with, low data rate, short range. So generally, twisted pair are used for short ranges of data transmission. And they are very less cost, or low data transmission rates, or less cost, and they are easy to work with, or easy to install, and they are generally cheap. So twisted pair transmission characteristics. So generally these cables are used for analog data transmission. So basically two types of transmissions are there: analog and digitals. Analogs means amplifiers every 5 to 6 kilometers. Digital use either analog or digital signals Limited distances means these are generally these supports for limited distances, and limited bandwidth also means generally they are for 1 megahertz. Limited data rate means that is 100 megahertz. So these are the and su- susceptible interface and noises. So generally in the twisted pairs, noises are included. So near and crosstalk. So coupling of signal from one pair to another. Coupling takes place when transmit signal. So unshielded and shielded twisted pairs. So again, twisted pairs are of two types. Unshielded twisted pairs, they are called as also called as UTP. Unshielded means there is no shield to cover the cable. Twisted pair means ordinary telephone wires. They are cheapest, easiest to install, suffers from external interferences. And shielded. So twisted pairs are again two types: UTP and STPs. UTP means unshielded. Examples are telephone lines. And shielded twisted pairs means metal braid or they are more expensive compared to UTPs. Harder to handle means they are very thick and heavy metals are used. So UTP categories means unshielded twisted pairs. They are generally different categories. Cat 3 cables, Cat 4 cables, Cat 5, Cat 6, Cat 5e, Cat 7. Cat 3 means up to 16 megahertz transmission speeds are used, and length is 7.5 centimeter to 10 centimeters twist length. And Cat 4 means up to 20 megahertz. Cat 5 means up to 100 megahertz. Uh, Generally, Cat 5 cables are used for using in internets and other computer network cables. They supports up to 100 megahertz. They are called as Cat 5 cables. And they are generally used for commonly pre-installed in new office buildings. Twist length is 0.6 to 0.85 centimeters, and other types also there. So comparison of shield and unshielded twisted pairs. Frequency, these are the different, all these required, doesn't require. So coaxial cable. So second type of cable is coaxial. Coaxial cables. What are coaxial cables? This is the diagram. In coaxial cables, outer conductor is braided shield. Inner conductor is solid metal separated by insulating material covered by padding. So this is the diagram or structure of a coaxial cable. Inner layer contains inner conductor, and above that is some insulation is there by using some insulated material. Above that outer conductor is there, and above that outer shield is covered. So coaxial cable, what are the applications of coaxial cables? Means coaxial cables are more versatile medium. Generally, they are used at telephone distribution like aerial TVs, aerial to TV, cable TVs. Long distance telephone transmission means carry up to 10,000 voice calls simultaneously, being replaced by a fiber optic. Short distance computer system links locally used at local area networks. So coaxial cable transmission characteristics. So what are the characteristics? In analog signals, amplifiers vary few kilometers closer if higher frequency, and in digital signals, repeaters are required. So third cable is optical fibers. So optical fiber, what is optical fiber? In optical fibers, generally glass or plastic core materials are used in in inner part. Laser or light emitting diodes are used for transmission medium, and specially designed for jackets are used small size and weights. So optical fibers are very high speed data transmission mediums. Generally in optical fibers, glass or plastic cores are used as inner core. They can be covered with some cladding material or glass materials. Again, they are shielded with some jackets. So, what are the benefits or characteristics or applications of optical fibers? Greater capacity means they are generally used for high speed LANs and high speed data transmission. Data rates of hundreds of GBs. So, optical cables are generally used for transmitting hundreds of GBs, and their size is very small and less weight. It is the main benefit. And lower attenuation and electromagnetic isolation. Generally, optical fibers are covered with electromagnetic isolation material, so that there is no loss of any signals or there is no loss of any data like that. And greater repeated spacing means so next one is optical fiber applications, where generally where optical fibers are used means long haul trunks, metropolitan cities, coaxial trunks, and subscriber loops and LANs. So optical fiber transmission characteristics. So act as waveguide for 10 14 so light emitting diodes LEDs. Generally optical fibers are used with LEDs. LED means light emitting diodes. They are very cheap, wide operation ranges, lost language, and ILDs also. So next one is wireless transmission frequencies. Next one is wireless transmission. Means generally there is no medium required in wireless transmission frequencies. So they are very high speed transmissions types, and generally it covers up to 2 gigahertz to 40 gigahertz. It means it is very high speed. Generally they are used at microwaves, highly directional point to point satellites. In all these technologies we may use wireless transmission. It covers up to 2 gigahertz to 40 gigahertz bandwidths, and 3 megahertz to 1 gigahertz radios, and local and infrared technologies are also used. So antennas. So electrical conductor or system are used to radiate electromagnetic energy or collect electromagnetic transmission. So generally in antennas, radio frequencies are used to transmit antennas by using some antenna and other technologies. So radiation pattern. So power radiated in all directions. Not same performance in all directions. Next is satellite microwaves. Satellite is a relay station. Satellite receives on one frequency, amplifies or repeats signals and others. So generally these satellite technologies are used in televisions, and they covers for long distance telephones and for used for private businesses and others. So this is the working of a satellite transmission media. Generally satellite transmission medias are point to point links, means there are two satellites are used, there are two earth stations are in satellites how the satellite transmission or works means there are two earth stations are used on the, they are called as antennas, generally called as antennas, placed on two different points of the earth, and one satellite antenna satellite which orbits on the above the earth and around the, which covers around the, rotates around the earth. And generally there are two satellites are fixed at earth stations. One is for sender and second one is for receiver. So whenever we transmit data by using satellites, one satellite transmits the data or information to the satellite, and the same data or information is received by the another satellite point. So it is, so that it is called as point-to-point link. So satellite broadcast link. So there are many broadcast links or transmitters and receivers, receiving and transmitter stations are used. They continuously sends and receives the data and information. So broadcast radios, another examples are for satellite technologies is broadcast radios like FM radios. Another technology of transmission is infrared technologies. Infrared means modulate non-voice technologies, light of sight. Generally, TV remote controls and IRT portals are made up of with infrared technologies, and these are generally blocked by walls. Line of sight or reflection